Live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, a real estate and finance expert, and goes to bat for you every day as your consumer advocate. Your host, Brandon Rhymes.
Yes, here we are again, another day committed to picking a fight with the mainstream media and providing you the timely truth centered around your real estate, credit, finance, family law, estate planning, and so much more. You're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show, where our number one goals are to entertain, educate, enlighten in an effort to engage and help you win in any marketplace.
The only thing I'm addicted to right now is winning.
Now, we want you to pull out your smartphone and save our consumer advocate hotline number in your phone. It's 813-917-1894.
You used to call me on my cell phone.
813-917-1894. Don't forget our number. We also want you to bookmark realestateradiotampa.com. That's our website, blog site, a plethora of information available there for you, as well as links to all of our expert contributors on the Real Estate Quarterback Show and our second brand called the Consumer Quarterback Show, where we talk more about health and nutrition, lifestyle, and recreation. And we don't care if you're climbing a corporate ladder, if you throw a ladder in your truck on the way to work, this show's for you. We want to help you win. And let's go around the horn here, make our introductions. And this is Intelligent Talk Radio. We've got some intelligent folks here in studio. First up is going to be attorney Joe Cairns, Cairns Family Law. Welcome back in, sir.
Thank you, sir. Joe Cairns, and I'm going to be talking about the upcoming school year. It doesn't seem that close, but it is coming fastly upon us, and it is something that can become a very significant family law issue.
Absolutely. Right around the corner. Also, attorney Jerry Slutzky back in studio. Welcome back in.
Brandon, thanks for having me again. It's a delight to be back. Today, I'm going to be talking about all the interesting ways that people try to do it yourself in avoiding probate and their own estate planning process, creating more problems along the way.
Oh, man, we see it so many times in real estate as well, with the for sale by owners doing it on their own. And also in studio, we've got MJ Martinez, Advantage PI, private investigator here in Tampa Bay. Welcome back in.
Thanks, Brandon. Yes, Advantage Unlimited Investigations, AdvantagePI.com. Going to revisit some issues with family law and also estate planning.
Excellent. We love it. A great crossover today. We got a great show lined up for you here, and we're going to jump right into it. Let's go right into it. Actually, this segment is brought to you by my health team, consisting of Michael Vogt. He is an expert massage therapist here in Tampa Bay. Give a shout out to Back in Health Massage, helping people with neck, back, shoulder, hip, and leg pain feel better. And he's located on Gun Highway here in Tampa, 3750 Gun Highway. And he's voted top 10 massage services in Tampa Bay by the readers of the Tampa Bay Business Journal's Best in the Biz Awards. And that's a shout out to Michael Vogt, my health team. And then part two of my health team is a shout out to Ray Milton with Ray's Vegan Soul, where I'll hit you with the flavor. That's his tagline. He does awesome food. He's a chef. He's cooking these awesome meals for me, organic, raw, many times, different types of foods. And I put them in my vehicle with me. That way I'm not running in those fast food restaurants, those fast food stores, and I'm able to eat healthy even if I am on the road and traveling. So a lot of times I'll eat them on the weekends too. I'm on the boat, out on the boat enjoying, and it's important to get those meals in and take care of your health. What else do we have in this world if we don't have our health? So let's jump right into it. We got an all-star lineup for you today, and we got a couple of attorneys here in studio. Family law attorney Joe Cairns, and also Jerry Slutzky here, and then also our private investigator partner as well, MJ Martinez, private investigation. So let's go ahead and start off right here with the family law topic, Joe. You mentioned, that's what I love about the ability to come on and have this seasonally appropriate advice. I mean, we're probably, in different schools have different start dates, but yeah, it's right around the corner, man.
Here's what happens. Children go to school. There's elementary, there's middle school, there's high school. But if there is some sort of family law issue, maybe a paternity case or a divorce was filed, and they separate, now they're in different school districts.
Ooh.
So you'd think the obvious answer would be that the child's going to try to continue to go to the school that he or she was going to before.
Right.
Inevitably, someone, not all the time, but someone will try to change that school. And it becomes this emergency. And you'd think that it wouldn't necessarily become an emergency because you have to sign up kind of in advance. Well, people kind of find their ways around this, or they start plotting it without the really the requirement of talking to the other parent.
Right.
So that becomes a huge problem, particularly if you get really close and the judge is like, you know what, I don't have a lot of time. I really can't stick you in here. And then if a kid starts at one school, it's going to almost like, well, let's just keep him where he's at.
Yeah.
It can be a really hard transition because, I mean, I've moved a couple times in my life. I've changed schools. That's always a big adjustment.
Yeah, it is.
So making sure you're considering the needs of the child and not just playing kind of, king of the mountain is what can happen.
Yeah.
Because that could, I mean, you could think you won the war, you won the battle, the kid's in the new school, so that's going to get me the majority of the time sharing.
Right.
That can end up being kind of a double-edged sword. The court could see this, you're not someone who's going to really cooperate with us, so maybe we need to take some of the control from you.
Right.
So when you're going through a divorce, try to keep the status quo as much as you can, if only for the kid's sake.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key point there is that, and I think they make you do the counseling still before you get divorced. And that's the number one goal of that counseling is the outcome is if you have kids involved, you don't want to turn it into this antagonistic relationship between the mom and the father. Because then, the child kind of sees themselves in that mother or the father figure, and they think, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me, too.
Yeah, I mean, the child always thinks of himself as like 50% one parent, 50% of the other.
Yep.
So if there's this constant war back and forth, the kid kind of sits back and goes, well, I guess I have these kind of problems within me as well.
Right.
But you brought up the divorce class.
Right.
There's actually a parenting class that they give you. If you're going through a divorce or paternity case and there's kids involved, and it's Pasco, Hillsborough, pretty much every state in the county, and they actually require that you actually go. It's not like the driver's education course if you get your ticket where you can just go online and maybe someone else is doing it for you.
Yeah.
No, that you actually have to show up in person. And it is very important because it tells you kind of the do's and don'ts of how to communicate with each other because you're in a completely different context. Typically, you're mad, and communicating with somebody about things that are important to your kid while you're mad could be impossible, but that class can actually be a great help.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, too, on previous show appearances, you talked about how the holidays, it's that last holiday in their mind, and then the new year, boom, that's when they all come to, or majority come to visit you.
Yeah, because everyone waits. They don't want to do it. Now, the family's coming down in November, and they're going to be down here in December. So what I'll do is I'll just see how things go. And then the gates kind of open in January. Then they open up even more when they get their tax refund.
Right. Because they know they can go out and get a new apartment.
I call tax time the aftershock as far as my business is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just join us, that's Joe Cairns, family law attorney here in Tampa Bay. We're talking about ways that as a consumer out there that you can kind of have the foresight to see these types of events. So the big one now is what we just talked about is school starting back up. What else you seen out there, Joe? Well,
even kind of related to the schooling is also people moving.
Yeah.
Because of the school year, people that have kids tend to move in the summer. I think the 2 times that I did move in my life, it was around the school.
Right.
Either a division between like the fall semester into the spring semester or in the summer. The summer is the easiest because of how long it is.
Right.
So people are either moving out
Yep.
or they're moving in. And particularly if someone wants to move out of the state with their children, we need to get it done like quick. Now, the court does give you priority. It's not required, but it's a should. Get you in within like 30 days for a temporary relocation and 90 days if it's going to be a full-scale trial on that issue. And they almost inevitably go to trial because they're very difficult to settle because, I mean, it's kind of a black and white issue.
Yeah.
It's not like if you want to move to North Carolina, we can somehow pick Atlanta like as the middle point. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So it's important that if you're going to make a move and you are subject to some sort of like time sharing parenting plan, something like that, do it now, do it immediately.
Yeah.
So at least we can start talking about it because it's going to come as a shock to the other parent, and there's going to be a complete upheaval with the kid regardless of what's going on. So it's important to talk to an attorney so that you can see, do you really have the juice in order to convince a judge or the other side to allow you to relocate? With the better part of the standard being, is it really going to benefit the child, not just the parents?
Right.
And a lot of the time the answer is no. I mean, there's plenty of times people come in there, I mean, it sounds like you might be able to move. But it also could be that you're taking a calculated risk, and it could be at the disadvantage of the other parent being able to see the child all the time, particularly if the child's used to seeing them almost on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's a big one right there. I mean, to take a kid, 7, 8 years old, 10, 12, 15 years old, and move to another state. and so I would think there had to be some really strong circumstances that would say, well, I'm going to be able to go from this salary at $60,000 and now I'm going to be able to make, maybe double that income. But even at that point, what is the monetary value of the other parent not being able to see the child as much?
Absolutely. You're creating expenses. I mean, you have added costs of like flights, those types of things. And beyond that, even if you're the parent who doesn't have the kid the majority of the time, I know there's lots more cases where there's 50-50 custody, where you also have situations where one parent or the other has majority. Yeah. Even if you're the I don't want to call you the minority parent, but the parent who doesn't have the 50 or better time sharing,
right? You
still need to fix that time sharing schedule because you're moving away, so you're not going to be able to do it right away. So you have to take care of it fast.
Yeah, it's a lot of considerations that needs to go into that decision. More from attorney Joe Cairns when we come back, as well as Jerry Slutzky, estate planning attorney here in Tampa Bay, and we're going to hear from MJ Martinez. He's a private investigator at VantagePI.com. Stay with us. The Real Estate Quarterback Show, RealEstateRadioTampa.com.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show, hosted by my man Brandon Rhymes.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here, Real Estate Quarterback Show, Platinum MVP Realty. And I want to give a shout out to our show partner here, Greg Geyer with Printing Solutions, Inc. He does a great job printing all of our print needs, printing postcards, banners, business cards, all types of great printing available from Greg Geyer over at Printing Solutions, Inc., digitalprintingsource.com. Give a shout out to Greg. Digitalprintingsource.com does a great job printing awesome types of different marketing materials for us. And I want to touch on a hot listing that we've got, give you a sample of things happening here in Pinellas County. I've got a hot listing at 13235 Gulf Boulevard, unit number 409, Madeira Beach. And it's Madeira Bay Resort 2 condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a condotel. And it is listed at only $239,000. Great buying opportunity here at 13235 Gulf Boulevard, unit number 409 in Madeira Beach. 2-bedroom, 2-bath property, only $239,000. You walk across the street, you got gorgeous views of the Gulf of Mexico, and you walk across the street, you put your toes into the sugar sands of Madeira Beach, Florida. Okay, so we're back here in studio live from iHeartRadio, beautiful South Tampa here. And every day, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., it's your most important hour on the radio. We're Tampa Bay and the Gulf Coast region's #1 consumer advocate. And we also have a show on the weekends as well on 102.5 The Bone on Sunday morning, 7 a.m. And we also stream all of our shows live from our website at realestateradiotampa.com. Just click on the live stream. If you want to see our expert contributors tab, just click on the expert contributors. You can see links to all of our attorneys. Over 80 show partners again with our show, and we all want to help you win no matter what you're facing out there and help you avoid a lot of stress that you happen to come across in this lovely thing we call life. So I want to help you stay from being stressed out here. So in the first segment, we talked with attorney Joe Cairns. We're going to bring Jerry Slutzky, attorney Jerry Slutzky, into the conversation as well. And between the break, we had a good conversation. Quick brought up a point of how does Skype and some of these virtual types of relationships work when it comes to the judge and those types of considerations.
If it's a long distance time sharing arrangement, it's going to have to be Skype's going to be a daily occurrence. It'll take the place of phone calls. Yeah, and it's cheap. If you have an internet access, you can use it.
Yeah, and FaceTime and
WhatsApp.
I mean,
there's all these different things, and you can set up times. You can send videos. So those things do help. They're just not a complete. It will not take the place of actual time with your children. So the courts understand that. So that is a consideration. Sometimes it's just that's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Let's go ahead and bring Jerry Slutzky into the conversation. Highly respected estate planning attorney here in Tampa Bay. So, great lineup here. I love the crossover opportunities between family law, estate planning, and then also MJ Martinez in studio as well. He's an investigator, private investigator behind the scenes. So he's called upon to help out with certain types of situations, things happening, and we'll touch it. We'll get to social media and some of that fun stuff later too. But let's go ahead and get Jerry Slutzky involved here in the conversation. So. Yeah, estate planning, what else? What are you seeing out there?
Well, everyone is trying to avoid probate, as if probate is an evil word. Mm-hmm. Probate is simply a court-supervised process for making sure that when you pass away, everything is collected, the bills are paid, and it goes to the people you want it to go to. It's not an evil thing. However, it can be expensive. Right. A typical attorney's fee in a probate matter can be 3%. This is by statute, 3% of the value of the probate estate. So if you have a house and some other assets, you're worth, say, $500,000, you could be looking at a $15,000 attorney fee. So obviously people are always trying to come up with methods to try to avoid going through probate, and I thoroughly understand it. Probably the least expensive way of doing that is to establish a revocable living trust. Right. It's a fraction of the cost. It covers what might happen if you become incapacitated, so it can replace the need for a guardianship. It can completely avoid probate in many cases. Here the rock star Prince died, and everyone's saying, oh my God, he didn't have a will. Well, there's a very good chance that he had a revocable living trust, which provided that everything was to pass to his beneficiaries underneath the radar. Because if you file a will, everything that you have is in the inventory, so it's a matter of public record what you owned, and it also lists the beneficiaries. So now everybody knows who gets it. Whereas with a revocable living trust, it goes to the beneficiaries immediately upon death without the necessity of it being published in the newspaper. Right. Now, in some cases, I believe it was the Robin Williams one, I think it was Robin Williams, where he did have a trust, but it wound up still going through the media because it had to go through some degree of probate. Wow. But the whole idea, though, is if you can use a legal method to avoid probate and get it to the people you want to receive the asset, why not?
Right.
The problem is some people talk to friends who don't want to admit they don't know what the heck they're talking about, and so they get really bad advice, such as, oh, just add my children onto my deed. I bought this house years ago for $50,000. It's worth $500,000 now. I'll just add their name to it, and it'll pass to them automatically. And the people don't realize that they're creating a horrible tax liability. Because if the child inherits the property upon death, the parent keeps it in their name, and then the child inherits it outright, the cost basis for tax purposes steps up to the date of death value, which in my example would be $500,000. The kids sell it for $500,000. There's no tax liability. But if you gift it to the kids or you put their name on the deed, they take your cost basis, which was $50,000. They sell it for $500,000. Uncle Sam is going to be there with their hand outstretched for a very sizable tax.
Wow.
So there are better ways of doing it, either through a revocable living trust, or in some cases, the last time I was on, I was talking about ladybird deeds. It's basically like naming a beneficiary on a piece of property. Only in this case, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a life estate, so you're still able to live in the house. You can still do pretty much anything you ever wanted to do to the house, including selling it. But upon your death, it automatically passes to whoever you've named. The technical term is the remainderman interest. That would be like the beneficiary on a life insurance policy. They take it at death without probate, and they do get the stepped-up death benefit. So there's a lot of benefit to that. I believe the last time I was here, I was telling the story. I got a call where somebody was on their deathbed. They were in the hospital. They'd had some stroke and was not expected to live the weekend. He was lucid. He was not on medication, but the doctor had told him, you have another stroke. It's probably going to be your last one. And he realized he had not updated his will. He still had his house in his name individually, and he didn't want it to have to go through probate. It would have been about a $10,000 probate cost. So I received a telephone call. I went to the hospital. I got the facts in advance. I actually prepared a ladybird deed and a new will for him. We brought witnesses into the hospital, and since he was lucid and was able to, he knew, he was of sound mind and disposing memory, which is the technical term. He was able to sign the documents. The witnesses signed it, and he passed away 2 days later.
Wow.
No probate.
Wow. What a selfless act of that man, to go ahead and do that and have the foresight to think about it.
Yeah. My wife wasn't thrilled about my having to go there on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But that's what I do for my clients when necessary.
Yeah, and that's Jerry Slutzky. He's an estate planning attorney here in Tampa Bay. And, yeah, man, it's interesting. You think about probate avoidance. And a few years back, there was another case. We just talked about Prince passing, James Gandolfini, a.k.a. Tony Soprano. Same thing, similar situation, died intestate, right,
Yes.
without a will in place.
Yes.
So he died intestate, and then, lots of money going to be soaked up by, different aspects of that.
Yeah, I mean, not if you don't have a will, the state writes one for you. The only problem is it may not be what you want.
Right.
I mean, if you're a single person, okay, if you have kids, it's going to go to your kids. If you're married with children of that marriage, everything's going to go to your wife. If she dies before you, it's going to go to the kids. But it becomes more complicated if you have children either from a previous marriage or your spouse does. Now when you die, your spouse only gets half and the kids get another half. If they're minors, a guardianship is going to have to be filed for the child, so a guardian needs to be appointed. That can be an expensive proceeding. And at 18, the child inherits it. So if you've got, again, say a $500,000 estate, do you want an 18-year-old to get their hands on a $500,000?
Vegas, baby.
Yeah, I don't know about Vegas, but I see a nice sports car and some good parties coming up in the future. Yeah,
that's right. Party time. Yeah, so let's talk on that. Let's touch on that when we come back, and we're also going to bring MJ Martinez, private investigator, into the conversation. Kind of shares how he works in these types of situations with attorneys, and also other areas as well: cheaters, child custody, divorce, corporate, insurance, criminal surveillance, electronic sweeps, background checks, all types of other areas that he can help you with as well. GPS tracking was an interesting one that we talked about, MJ. But, so we're going to hear more from our experts here in studio. When we come back, Jerry Slutzky is going to break down some alternative options instead of giving that 18-year-old that $1 million paycheck at that particular date, ways that you can stagger that. And we're also going to hear from attorney Joe Cairns here, a family law attorney and partner on the Real Estate Quarterback Show. So stay with us. Don't touch that dial. Some intelligent talk radio and helping you think a layer deeper. Think a little bit smarter out there, make you more street smart, and we want to be your super connector. So stay with us. The best is yet to come. You're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show, realestateradiotampa.com.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here, Real Estate Quarterback Show, owner of Platinum MVP Realty. And we've got a great intelligent conversation going on here about ways that you can protect your assets, protect your family. And we've got attorney Joe Cairns, family law attorney here in Tampa Bay, as well as attorney Jerry Slutzky in the studio. And we're also going to hear from private investigator MJ Martinez at VantagePI.com. And before we jump back into this great content, I want to plug one of our sponsors. We've got it Smart Move Moving and Storage, the official moving partner of the Real Estate Quarterback Show. Say hello to Hannah and her team over at Smart Move Moving and Storage. They do a great job on real estate moving, as well as our surveying partner, Target Surveying. They do a great job on finding out the dimensions and shapes of these different lots and parcels of land. So give a shout out to Target Surveying. Say hello to Shane Price over at Target Surveying. And before we jump back into this great content, I got $1 million listing that I want to pitch, kind of give you a breakdown here, what we've got in Beach Park. And by the way, this property is appearing on a major national television show, as well as myself. Can't release a lot of detail yet, but we'll be leaking some more of that detail when we come out. We're going to be on a major network in August and September. And it's 414 South Royal Palm Way in Tampa, 33609 in Beach Park. 4 bedrooms, 3 full bath, 2 half bath, and it's over 4,800 square foot heated. $1.195 million. Great buying opportunity here in Tampa Bay, in Beach Park. One of the most desirable areas in all of Tampa Bay to live. Distinguished South Tampa home, Spanish architecture, built in 1925 by one of Tampa's famous family, the Wolf Brothers. And a beautiful estate-style pool, large backyard. 414 South Royal Palm. And all of our listings are available at our website, realestateradiotampa.com. And we want you to program our hotline number in your phone. It's 813-917-1894.
Welcome to my house.
917-1894. So let's go ahead. We're back here in studio. So Jerry Slutzky, before the break, we were talking about, when you do have these types of situations that you don't want to give that 18-year-old that $1 million or $5 million that's due to the estate or comes from the estate.
Yeah, you just don't want a child of that age, or even older in many cases, to have access to that kind of money. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money, because if you got $100,000,
yep,
they are going to blow a good part of it before their brains get screwed back into place.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be the one to do it. Somebody else is going to hopefully not take advantage of them, but you have to be real careful in protecting your kids from themselves. So as an example, I always talk about my own kids. I got divorced when my kids were 8 and 5. They are now 30 and 26. I'm going to be a grandfather, by the way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. But the way that I've protected my kids from themselves is by putting the assets into a trust. Now, if something happens to me, my children will receive an income from the trust until they are 40. Now, they can invade principal. They can take a chunk of money out if they need it for health, education, medical reasons, general welfare. We don't want them thrown on the street just because they can't afford to pay rent.
Right.
They can buy a used car, a reasonably priced used car, based on their position in life, so to speak. That's up for the trustee to determine, because my older daughter is very smart. She would go out and buy a used Maserati and then sell it on the secondary market. No, it has to be a reasonably priced car, and they could put 10% down on a house. I want them to have some skin in the game if they're going to buy real estate.
Right.
Beyond that, they cannot invade principal until they're 30. At 30, they get a third of the money. At 35, they get half of what's left. And at 40, they get the balance. And the way they're going right now, love them dearly, but I'm probably going to be changing it to 40, 45, and 50 just to protect them. Because if they do something really dumb, they sign a contract or they get involved in a bad relationship, there's a spendthrift clause in there that prevents a creditor from being able to get access to that money until they actually take the money.
Yeah.
So I've done as much as I can from the grave, and if they haven't figured it out by the time they do get the money, well, I've done my best to protect my angels.
Yeah, that's great. That's having foresight. It's being smart, and it's being reasonable, at the same time. So that's a great point. Jerry Slutzky, estate planning attorney here in Tampa Bay, and we want you reaching out. Check out realestateradiotampa.com. Let's go ahead and bring MJ Martinez into the conversation now. He's a private investigator here in Tampa Bay, and he can work for private individuals, but he does some work as well with attorneys. So we thought it'd be a good conversation to have him on this show. So what are you seeing out there, MJ?
Thanks, Brandon. Very interesting content today. I do a lot of different types of services. I've worked in my professional background, I've worked in guardianship and estates and with probate lawyers, so I have a lot of expertise or at least knowledge in that area. I've seen where assets were at stake and really the unpleasantries of families that relatives come out of the woodwork that you never knew were there, but once they found out there was a sniff of some assets,
surprise,
exactly. A lot of interesting. As Mr. Slutzky had discussed, the pre-planning, the getting things in order in advance really makes for a much easier process in the death process later on down the line. Just makes spelling out the way it's going to be a lot better. But if it's left to the families to decide, sometimes it really can be complicated. So
And you can go in and you can try to trace assets, almost like forensic accounting, but you're not really doing on the accounting side. You're just trying to expose what's out there.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes people don't know. I hate to say, but I've seen multimillionaires pass away and leave, I don't know who they're going to leave the money to, but eventually, as an investigator, we were able to, determine those assets for the attorney, and so they could go forward in disposing of the property to the appropriate entities. So.
Yeah, and then let's switch gears, talk a little bit about family law. That's an area too that you find out, and Florida, and correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter who cheated, whose fault it was, Joe. Whenever you talk about divorce situations, so that's when you call in the investigator, and many times it's the smart thing to do is call before it even gets to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. When depending on who you are, if you're in a relationship and you're concerned about things that are, suspect activities, people, not saying where they're going to be.
Yeah.
Eventually, one time, two times is one thing, but, patterns, and, a marriage is a partnership. And if your partner's, kind of not in the game, then you have to rethink your strategy. So.
Right.
Or a dictatorship, as we were talking about before.
Dictatorship, right.
Right.
Yeah,
you say that would also apply to hiding assets.
Correct.
Keep them out of the marital estate.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah,
that happens a lot, I bet.
We were talking, about children being, I've seen strategically where parents will, they move out of state. They'll cause an argument right away. Bam, move out of state, estrange the other parent from, and alienate the other parent essentially, and make it, that much harder to jump those hurdles, So I'll get calls from people. They'll sense that's going to happen, but they're not sure what to do,
Yeah.
So I advise them. Obviously, they need to seek legal advice right away.
Yeah, that intuition that you have a lot of times. That's your subconscious mind kind of saying, hey, let's go ahead and start investigating this, find out. And by the way, if you just joined us, you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show and the Consumer Quarterback Show as well. We have MJ Martinez. We're speaking with MJ Martinez at VantagePI.com, and local investigator here, 25 years of service as a former state and federal agent, as well as licensed and bonded. So, yeah, what else are you seeing out there? What else do you think is important, this time?
I mean, as it pertains to the topic that we're talking about, if you're having doubts in your personal relationships and your family situation, if you have these shared parental responsibility agreements that are stipulated going in, some parents take it very literally. The verbiage and the time sharing. I mean, down to
you said you'd be here at 2:30.
To the
I'm leaving.
to the second they do. They absolutely do. And if you're, then they're ready to go file for sanctions. So, it can be problematic, but we're here to make sure that the people can be accountable.
Right.
And there are gross negligence situations on both sides. So I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to capture the information.
Right.
And then they do it with what they will.
Yeah, literally capture it with cameras in many cases, and you've got the GPS tracking devices as well. Maybe we'll touch on that when we come back, as well as some social media. Let's talk a little bit about social media, how it can affect some of these types of situations, and we'll hear more from our experts here in studio. We got Joe Cairns, family law attorney here, Cairns Family Law, MJ Martinez, Advantage PI, and Jerry Slutzky, estate planning attorney here in Tampa Bay. So stay with us. Don't touch that dial. The best is yet to come. We're going to have our final segment here and share with you some more of these consumer advocate tips, things to do, things to avoid, ways that you can live a better life. RealEstateRadioTampa.com.
This is Work Done, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show, hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
right, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Brandon Rhymes here, Real Estate Quarterback Show, and Platinum MVP Realty, Intelligent Talk Radio. Some intelligent folks here in studio. Appreciate you tuning in. And let's go ahead and jump right back into it. MJ Martinez, Advantage PI, private investigator here in Tampa Bay. And we also have our family law attorney, Mr. Joe Cairns, Attorney Joe Cairns in studio, as well as our estate planning attorney, Jerry Slutzky, Slutzky Law Firm here. So we left off talking about GPS tracking and
Sure.
different things. Maybe just give a little overview.
Sure. I mean, trackers are available. The technology is wonderful. It can pinpoint property, vehicles, things that you may have down to the exact location where it's at. There's some legislation out there that's kind of impacted the use of tracking, but it's still available on.
And you got to be the owner, right? So if the house
typically
car is
you got to
registered-
be, it's got to be something registered in your name, or a company name that you're a principal of. So.
Right. So it has that business application too. That's what I thought was interesting in our pre-show interviews. We were talking about how, maybe it might be a pharmaceutical rep company going, maybe hitting the links a little early on Friday, tracking them. He's out there golfing. He should be working. But hey, so there's a lot of different things that Advantage PI can help you with, and we urge you to reach out and check them out online at realestateradiotampa.com. Click on the Expert Contributors tab, and you'll see links to all of our expert contributors. You'll have their phone numbers, websites, all their info there as well. And so let's go ahead and enter the lightning round. All right, the lightning round. Top consumer tips, things to do, things to avoid. Family law attorney Joe Cairns, you're up first, sir.
All right, I'm doing this for you, Brandon.
Social media.
All right, so here's what happens. When there's a breakup, when that's going to happen, someone's going to say, I'm having a bad day. And where do we go when we're having a bad day? We go to the bar. And we're going to have too many because we're in a bad mood, and we're going to do that. And then we pick up our phones or our iPads, and then we're going to type something into it. Typically, it's going to be something mean about the person who we thought slighted us during the day.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen is the following day, you're going to, I'm going to get an attorney. I'm either getting a divorce, or I'm going to make sure that I have custody of my kid. I'm moving out of the house. Which I'm going to do when you come in there, before you even sit down in my chair, I'm going to look at your Facebook and the Facebook of your other significant other.
Yep.
And I'm going to see what has been posted, if it's public. And if you don't think that, I've kept it so it's secret, I have a feeling you have a common friend who is sitting somewhere who is just going to capture all of those lovely images of you just going ballistic at some bar because you were angry. And let me just tell you, it's going to make things a little bit more expensive because the context at 12 o'clock at night is not going to be the same at 2 o'clock in front of one of the judges in Pinellas or Hillsborough County. So I would suggest keep your phone in the car if you're going to have a couple after a bad day.
I love that one. Absolutely.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
So wants to come back to it.
All right, Jerry, your top consumer tip.
There's so much to be said about that. That's true. In the context of estate planning, digital assets are now a big part of the estate planning process.
Right.
Because until recently, if you had a Facebook page, if they've got notification that you had died, unless you had made pre-arrangements with them, your Facebook account was frozen. Nobody could post anything. Nobody could remove anything. They couldn't take down pictures. Now, I believe it has passed. There is a Uniform Digital Asset Act that's going around the country. I believe Florida just passed it.
Interesting.
But in all the documents I prepare anyway, it gives the personal representative, the trustee, your representatives the ability to go in and still have access to your digital assets. I mean, think of how much money you've spent on your iTunes accounts. Some people have Bitcoin. You may have cloud storage. I've got probably 10,000 family photos in the cloud. Somebody needs to have access to them. They also need to know passwords. That should be kept safe. But somebody needs it because if you have automatic payments going out of your banking account to pay your bills, somebody needs to know how to turn that off. Well, if they don't have the legal authority to access your emails and your other web-based content, you could be theoretically violating the law. Not theoretically, you could be violating the law. So it's important to have those documents in place, giving your representatives the ability to go in and have access to those.
And letting them know the passwords to access them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With that, I recommend putting passwords and confidential information in wherever you were keeping the original documents, preferably a safe deposit box or someplace safe,
Right.
and then you have a copy without the passwords at home with an indication where they can find the original that
Right.
has the important stuff.
Perfect. Did you want to get an offer in too, Jerry? Or we talking about?
Well, I was actually going to talk about my show. But,
Oh, the show. I'm
but
sorry. That's
yeah,
what
that's
it
all
was.
right. But the offer is anyone who texts in the word estate plan.
Yep.
I will give 20% off of my usual fee on either a will package or a trust package.
Okay.
But I did want to invite everybody. This weekend is the second weekend. They say every lawyer is a frustrated actor. In my case, it's true. I am performing with this wonderful 8 o'clock theater at the Largo Cultural Center in the Broadway musical 1776. Go to largoarts.com for tickets. It is a magnificent production. You will not be sorry that you went to see it.
Awesome. Multi-talented Jerry Slutzky, attorney by day, actor by night.
Yes.
He's a award-winning. It's awesome, man. I'm proud of you for that. LargoArts.com.
LargoArts.com.
Which one are you in?
1776. I play John Hancock.
John Hancock. Awesome, man. Awesome. Great. All right, let's continue our consumer advocate tips, things to do, things to avoid. MJ Martinez, Advantage PI.
Again, we've said it before. If you're having doubts, you're having issues that questions that you need to have answered, personal, business, however that may be, don't hesitate, investigate, contact an investigator, and let's see what we can get done for you.
That's right. Yeah. We want you reaching out. It's something that, whether and there's so many applications to this, it's not just relationships, which we focused on a little bit today, but it's other, things in terms of divorce, corporate insurance, criminal surveillance. You can do electronic sweeps, background checks, easy for me to say, bodyguard protection, process services, paralegal support, GPS tracking, any other areas as well. There's so many areas that, MJ Martinez can help you with. And, it's interesting to see some of the backstories that happen when it comes to a divorce case, a family law case, or, even hiding assets from an estate. There's ways that you can get involved and help them. So let's do another round here. Consumer advocate tips, things to do, things to avoid.
One thing that's actually become, and this is actually any area of the law, is something called metadata. Like, for example, if you put together your word processing document on Word, it'll tell you when it was started, and it'll tell you when you've modified it. So one of the things that lawyers are looking for, and this is in any context, is that actual data. When was it created?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things that happen in my world is someone goes, well, I have all these emails. Well, sometimes the emails, they can be manipulated. Like if you go to the string of emails, you can start typing stuff in there and print it out. And I can use it as an admission, but then the other person's going, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Then you have this he said, she said situation that's going on. So it can be important that if you're going to seek certain kind of evidence, or if you want to maintain certain kinds of things, namely text messages, those things, put them in PDF. That locks them.
Yeah.
So if you can lock something in PDF, then you don't have to worry about someone considering that you may have manipulated this thing.
Right.
And you have you can make it look like you've called somebody when you really didn't. You can make it seem like you didn't call somebody when you really did. There's all these different things out there. So one of the things you'll be talking about if you're talking to an attorney, this is, again, in any form, it could be criminal, family law, you name it, make sure that those types of things are actually being looked at.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's important. It's important to take that into consideration. I saw, I think it might have been American Greed or one of these shows. It was talking about how this person sued Facebook, and they were claiming that they were owed certain monies and things of that nature. But yeah, it kind of boiled down to the type print, the different settings of the margins, and the type of font that was used.
And that's when we start using people like MJ, because they can start investigating these things, even if it's a computer forensic or if it's a personal private investigator themselves. They start looking for that stuff for us.
Yep. Right. Jerry Slutzky, parting words of advice?
Parting words of advice is to accept and embrace our mortality.
Yeah.
We have a limited time on this planet. I know that I'm closer to the end of my journey than the beginning of the journey, so it's important to enjoy every day. Tell the people you love how much you love them. If you're angry at someone, let go of it. If you're in a situation that you're not happy about, change it. Yep. Because life is too short, and that's the one thing that being an estate planning attorney makes me very aware of.
Right.
So do realize that and take the action to have an estate plan put together.
Yes.
If not through legal documents, at least name beneficiaries on accounts, and tell if you do the planning and you have the documents, tell your loved ones where they are located.
That's right.
I've had two recently where the people couldn't find the documents, and we know that they exist.
Shoot us a text or a call, estate plan, family law, or private investigation. Any one of these categories that you want more information about or you'd like to have a free sit-down consultation, text into the call to the hotline at 813-917-1894. Give us a call at 813-917-1894. Family law, estate planning, private investigation. We want you to take action, help you live a better life, create those circumstances that you want in your life. And you know, you got to take action whenever you see that. And we want to thank all of our expert contributors, Joe Cairns, family law attorney here in Tampa Bay, Jerry Slutzky, estate planning attorney, Slutzky Law Firm, as well as MJ Martinez, Advantage PI. And we want you to go out there and please consider committing a random act of kindness. We'll see you next time, same time and place.